Hey, I am Jess, and I'm obsessed with all things nutrition, science, and helping you navigate this information while maintaining a deep sense of peace and empowerment in your body. I'm a registered dietitian who started out with an eating disorder and then fell in love with learning about how God intricately designed our bodies to be resilient and so much more than superficially beautiful. I am now a mama who loves to be healthy, not because of how it makes me look, but because of how it has transformed the energy I can give to my family, my friends, and you. On this show, we hit on real talk around the latest nutrition science and body image resiliency, all while balancing it between grit and grace. Think of this as your weekly audio coffee to encourage your empowered eating journey. This is the Fuel Her Awesome podcast. Welcome to December, my friend. The final countdown of 2024 has begun, and I have to tell you, I love this month. I love December for many reasons. I love the heart of what Christmas is about. Being in my faith is a core value of mine, so getting to take a whole month where I celebrate that and gather with friends and family and deepen my connection to my faith is something that's so important to me. So I love that aspect of December. But I also love how December is this time that I think our culture has a natural rhythm of rest and taking in that comes with the holidays. We tend to have slower times at work for most of us. I know not all of you, but many of us are taking a step back. We're taking some vacations. We are not hitting the grind button as hard. We're also taking in, we're giving and giving presents. That's just a part of our culture, for good or bad, right? But it is a part of something that comes with the holidays. And as far as our health goes, I think that can often look like letting go of a lot of the healthy habits we've built during the year. I cannot tell you how many times I talk to clients and they say things like, the holidays are a struggle for me. I've done really well until the holidays. And I think that's what creates this rubber band effect as we move into the new year, because our culture has created this extreme roller coaster. We go from not doing a lot for our health, resting, almost taking rest to an extreme, and then slingshotting into health. And my hope today is actually to break that. I want us to have a minute where we can step back and embrace this season of rest and taking it in a really healthy way so that it can set us up to go into 2025 with an empowered mindset. So I want to create some space for reflection this year. I think there's so much power in looking at the previous year, whatever it's held for you, whether it was a power year or a struggle year, or maybe a mixed bag. But I think looking at it in retrospect, and if we can remove some judgment and just get curious, I think that really allows us to bring in the wins, the things that worked, and then the lessons learned so that we can go into the new year with just this appetite to reset and reinvent ourselves. So that's the first thing we'll do today is we're actually going to spend some time in reflection. I'm going to share some lessons learned from my life, hope that it invites you to do the same. And then I want to look at how we can set ourselves up for the new year to not have that rubber band effect, avoid the crazy roller coaster, and just learn to really cultivate this rhythm of empowered eating. So I'm really excited to dive into this. I seriously love reflecting on December. I've already started this. I started December 1st, where I just read through my journal and I look at all the struggles I've had, the internal battles, the things that have worked and that I'm proud of. And I think there's so much power in being able to look at your life from a bird's eye perspective, because when we're in the middle of it, it's really hard. Whether it's something we're trying to accomplish, we can get stuck in the grind and start to feel like, oh, this is so hard. How am I going to make it? Or if we are in the middle of something that's maybe beyond our control and really stressful, it can start to feel like we're drowning and we're overwhelmed. But when we're able to look at the year from this bird's eye perspective, we can see how those struggles worked themselves out, how we overcame them, where we got help along the way. And I think it really gives us an opportunity to grow stronger in who we are and have a little bit more faith in the process, which is what we're here for in the Empowered Eating Game. So to start, I want to take a minute to celebrate some wins that we've had this year. When I sit down with a client, anytime I'm doing a follow-up, most of the time I will start with this question. I'll say, tell me 2 things that are working, and then we'll dive into one that isn't. And it's amazing how when I present this inquiry to clients, they they have a really hard time sharing with me what works. It's like our brain is like Velcro to negativity and Teflon to positivity. We have a really hard time looking and acknowledging and sitting in what works. And the reason I'm so adamant about this is actually because research shows that when we celebrate our progress, it actually strengthens our habits. So this isn't because I want to be a positive Polly and ignore what isn't working. No. Like we will get there and we will work on it. But I think it's important that we value both sides of this coin, like what works and what doesn't. And so when we're working on really big goals and managing our health, guys, it's a lifelong goal. It is not, we don't ever arrive, right? Like we'll hit milestones, but it is something that we will always have to be working on and growing in if we want to remain healthy. So when we are working on something as big as our health, I think these sorts of goals that are longstanding in a journey, they require us to celebrate the wins along the way. So I want to start with that. So like I mentioned, I started this reflection process on December 1st. And when I was looking at all the things that I feel proud of from 2024, one of the biggest ones and the biggest changes that I experienced, and something that I am so excited about, is overcoming my struggle with insomnia. I have talked about that a little bit on the show. I have struggled with insomnia off and on for probably 3 years. I think it was like 2021. Yeah, I know it was after COVID, and I had already started the podcast, but I really struggled with it. And man, I thought, it was hard being a mama to a newborn because we don't get a lot of sleep then, but insomnia is a whole nother level. There was no reward in it, and it just was really frustrating, and it created this anxiety and this story in my head, and unfortunately that fed itself. And so struggling with that off and on over the last 2 years, this year was a breakthrough year for me. And this year I'm so excited to say that I've overcome it. Like I can officially say I have overcome insomnia. And when I look back on it, I think there's 2 reasons I overcame it. So number 1 is that I did start living more in alignment with my values. As you guys know, I made a huge change in my life. I had been working another job, and I had dedicated, it was 13 solid years, maybe a little bit longer than that, to this workplace, to this work family, this specific place in my career. It was an eating disorder clinic. And it had really come to the point where it was just time to close that chapter. It was time to do something new. And one of my core values is adventure. And so I do think for a long time, me not living out that value in my career space was starting to impact my anxiety and my underlying stress levels. And so I think that had a huge, huge influence on my insomnia, because as soon as I put in my notice and I talked to the owners of the company and was at peace with them, like once I was out on the table, I did feel this massive relief in just the weight I felt like I was carrying. And then what was cool is right after I did that, and I did start sleeping a little bit better, not completely, but a little bit better, I decided to look at balancing my minerals, because you know me, I'm like pulling in the empowered eating model. We're looking at our values, but then we also have to listen to biofeedback. And so what I had noticed between those two is I was feeling more at peace, like within my value system, but my biofeedback was still telling me something was off. I still wasn't sleeping through the night. I still didn't feel like I had great energy. I knew my recovery at my workouts could be better. There was something off. So I actually decided to take my biofeedback to another level and look at what's called a hair mineral tissue analysis. And this is what's been so cool this year, and like jumping into my private practice, like both feet and getting to put the energy into it, is we've been able to add these greater levels of biofeedback measurement. So for those of you that might be new to the show, biofeedback is the fancy word for what your body is saying to you and how it's communicating to you. And it does that in some very simple ways, like saying when it's hungry, saying when it's full, your energy level, your bowel movements. Like there are some very direct ways your body talks to you, but there are some other ways that we can actually measure. And I think the one most people do is their body weight, which that piece of biofeedback in its right space can be helpful. But if that's the only piece, it's not. It's a whole nother story. We'll get to that in 2025 when we start talking about the scale. But as far as other forms of biofeedback, like we can look at blood pressure, at lab work, and there's these really cool tests that we can do to actually measure our mineral balances. So I looked at my mineral status and found that I had some mineral imbalances that directly impact how I sleep. And so, for example, I am awesome at taking my magnesium. I talk about that supplement a lot on the podcast here, but one of the things I found is that I had a magnesium sodium imbalance. And sodium directly or indirectly influences magnesium absorption through its role in electrolyte balance. So one of the things that happens is that sodium and magnesium, they actually work together to regulate fluid and mineral homeostasis. If there's an imbalance in your sodium level, it can actually affect your cellular uptake and retention of magnesium. And so I found that's what was happening to me. This can show up in your gut motility. We need adequate sodium levels to ensure proper gut motility or like movement of food through your gut. And poor gut motility attached to low sodium intake can impair your magnesium absorption in your intestines. So this was one of the many elements I found in my mineral imbalance test. And when I addressed this, the combination of living more fully in my values and then assessing my body's biofeedback and adjusting it accordingly was mind-blowing. I mean, I sleep through the night like a baby now. I am so proud of that. And I'm so proud of it because for so long it was such a struggle. So I appreciate it. Like I woke up this morning and my husband was like, "Hey, how'd you sleep?" And I just have this like big goofy grin because I'm like, fantastic. My sleep score was a 92 on my watch. And it told me when I woke up, my body battery was a 98. That was unheard of 2 years ago. So I am really, really proud of that. But I think it fits right into this empowered eating model, right? Of like pulling in our values, pulling in what our body is saying about its current status. So that's the biofeedback piece, and then pulling in nutrition science to help balance it. Oh, so cool. So yes, I am rested and have more energy than I had before, which like I love. My husband's like, "Whoa, you're like an Energizer bunny and now you're on another level." I wanted to know what some of you guys thought about this past year, some of the things you guys are proud of. So I actually asked this on my Instagram and I loved your answers. So one of you told me that you actually deepened your faith, which led to a change in your relationship with alcohol. You stopped drinking alcohol, which then in turn changed your biofeedback. You had healthier bowel movements, you had decreased anxiety, you were sleeping better. So cool, so cool. Like that's a major shift. And alcohol is such a deep part of our culture and our rhythm. So how cool to pull your faith in, evaluate your relationship with alcohol, and then make a change that made you healthier, both mentally and physically. So cool. I had another listener that shared that she is no longer macro counting and she's actually learning to build her plate intuitively. So cool. Like, can you imagine the stress-free, just like aura you would bring to a party if you didn't feel like that stress around building a plate? You just knew how to do it in an empowered mindset. I love that. Let's do one more. Another listener shared that they were letting go of perfection with food and learning to create patterns of health instead of striving for perfection. And that's something I so relate to, not just with my food and my body image, but like in life, right? Learning to look at what patterns are healthy for us and really letting go of perfection. I think that's really at the heart of a lot of what the work we do in creating an empowered relationship with food. It's just this. So super excited. Thank you for those of you who shared. But I want to take it now to the learning element of this conversation. So we sat for a minute in the wins. It's awesome. We're going to continue to celebrate those, and we will continue to partake in the rhythms that created those wins. So you better believe I'm still balancing my minerals with the appropriate supplements. I've got my healthy nighttime routine, and I am definitely working to continue to live in my values on a deeper level so that I can sleep, sister. Like, we're going to keep doing those things that lead to the win. But now let's shift over and look at areas we might have lessons learned and ways we might want to grow as we go into 2025. So again, looking at the year in retrospect, when we do this, it's important that we don't get into a judgmental mindset. Like, we want to actually look at what we have done in the last year and how, not from a judgmental mindset, but more of a curious space. Like, why didn't that work? And what might I want to do differently? I think of it like if you were to be talking to a friend and she were to share her struggle with you, like, you wouldn't come down on her and say like, yeah, you failed. How could you not do what you wanted? No, like, we wouldn't even go there. We would just say, sister, you tried and You win some, you don't win some. Here's what we can do to move into the next year, giving ourselves more of what we need to make that happen. So I want you to meet yourself like you would a dear friend as we move into this next section of the conversation. So when I look at 2024, there were a lot of changes. And as I shared, I left my 9 to 5, and with that came many changes, but one of them was that I lost a structured routine, and that actually impacted how I prepare meals, how I exercise. I mean, I no longer had a date and time I had to be places. I was my own boss, which is beautiful. Believe me, I love it. However, it's funny how that shows up in your home life, because my husband, who does have a place he has to be at certain times, he's like, okay, babe, I have to be at work at this time, so can you get the kids? And of course we got to take care of our kids, but my rhythms and my routines were shifted because I no longer had a set schedule. So, gosh, that took me a while to transition into. I found I was no longer eating on a schedule. I mean, some of those days I was home, I would go from being in the flow at work and I just not eating because I would get into something and then all of a sudden it'd be 2:00 and I'm starving, all the way over to the other side, which was I didn't want to actually work. I wanted to distract myself. So I'm in the cabinet again, eating who knows what snacks from my kids' snack bag. So I just found that it was a challenge to make that transition. And when I looked back on it, one of the things that really came to mind is this idea of learning how to implement rhythms instead of schedules. I could no longer be attached to a schedule. It just was not conducive to my new lifestyle. And I had to look at how can I create a rhythm that's healthy and gives me the energy I want to have throughout the day, but that isn't attached to a rigid schedule. Because if it's going to be attached to a schedule, it's not going to work in this new season of life. So for example, one of the things that changed this year is my husband had to be at work super early some days. So he would have to go in at 6 a.m. And you would think, me being a morning person, having a 5:30 a.m. workout, nothing would touch that or impact it. Wrong. This 6 a.m. work time for my husband absolutely impacted my workout routine. I can't tell you how many Mondays would roll around and I would be so excited. I mean, I'm one of those crazies that loves my 5:30 a.m. workout, but I would be so excited. I'm like, yes, okay, coming off a weekend of rest. It's Monday morning. I'm going to get up and get after it. My husband's like, babe, remember, I have to be at work at 6. You got to get the kids. Wah, wah, wah. It was a bummer. It threw me. So I had to learn to create a rhythm of exercise instead of being so stuck to my schedule. And if I'm being totally honest, it took me a while. I would get super agitated when he told me he had to work at 6 a.m. He's like, babe, I told you this. 2, sorry, I have to go to work, And my rigid thinking, which still pops up to this day, had a hard time adjusting. So I really had to get into this mind space of what is my rhythm of exercise. And when I look at a healthy rhythm of exercise in my life, it's not every day. I'm not following a rigid program. That's just not the way my value system thinks of exercise. What's important to me is having a rhythm of exercise that happens 3 to 5 times a week, that incorporates a moderate intensity because that helps with my mental health. I like getting my heart rate up for cardiovascular benefits. And sometimes that wasn't going to happen on Monday. So what I would do is I would say, okay, again, this took me a while, but I would adjust and be ready to not work out on Monday, but maybe I would work out on Monday afternoon. Maybe I would prioritize Tuesday through Friday. I would have to just fluctuate it, but be good with that rhythm of 3 to 5 times per week. Now, if you're someone who does really well with rhythms, this is going to come as a no-brainer to you. If you're like me, where you tend to have more of a perfectionistic mindset, there is a right way to do something, a wrong way to do something, which is, I've worked really hard, I've come a long way, but my brain still goes there. And so I will say I had to really come away from this idea of not going to my 5:30 a.m. CrossFit workout and the afternoon walk with my dog, that still counts. It does. It totally does. I mean, if we look at the American College of Sports Medicine, they recommend 3 to 5 days of exercise per week for 30 to 60 minutes. That's a rhythm. And looking from my bird's eye view at the previous year, I was hitting that rhythm always. And so just missing one Monday workout every other week, that was not going to impact my rhythm. But I think a lot of times when we have that all or nothing mindset, or we tend to have more perfectionistic sides of our brain, like these kinds of things can throw us, and we have a choice. We can either go down the old path, which is get upset about it and let it throw us for the week and not find other ways to move, or we can figure out how to have a rhythm. So that was a big lesson learned for me in 2024, this idea of rhythms, not schedules. What about you? If you were to look at this last year, what do you think was a takeaway? Like, what was something that didn't totally work for you? And what could you pull from that to set yourself up for success going into 2025? Maybe it is rhythms over schedule. I mean, that can be applied to a lot of different things. That can be applied to food. That was the other thing. When I mentioned that not being at a 9 to 5 created this like inconsistent eating pattern. And so I actually like shifted to eating more on a rhythm. So I don't eat like breakfast at a certain time, lunch at a certain time, and like afternoon snack. I eat 3 meals and 1 to 2 snacks a day. And sometimes that shifts depending on what the day looks like. If I have a really early start, like breakfast is going to be a little bit earlier versus a later start, like when my husband's working and I have to be in charge of the kids that day. I have a little bit later of a start because I'm not at the gym. And so breakfast shifts and the whole day is pushed. But the general rhythm there is eating 3 meals and 1 to 2 snacks a day. And I have a good idea of what those look like. So see how we can pull like some structure into the rhythm that supports us. And yet we're not so attached to a schedule that when life comes, which it always does, right? Life throws us curveballs. But when those things come that can, potentially set us off balance, they don't, because we have a rhythm and that rhythm can be adjusted. So that was a huge one. And I really invite you to look at how you might pull in a healthy rhythm as you go into 2025. And let's build that rhythm based on what didn't work. Like what kind of schedules, what kind of rigidity, what kind of perfectionistic ways around your health just didn't work, and how might we instead replace that with a rhythm as we go into 2025. So yeah, let's get those rhythms, baby. I mean, I have no musical rhythm at all. It doesn't stop me from singing and dancing, I'll tell you that much, but it's not good. So I guess what I lack in musical rhythm, I make up for in health rhythms. And I'm inviting you to do the same. Let me know what some of your rhythms are. Maybe it's having a certain morning routine. What other rhythms have you added? What other ones can we add? These are going to be the questions that really set us up for the healthiest year yet. So as we're getting ready for this, I want to invite you guys this month, let's take some time to really reflect. I want you to celebrate those wins. And if you need someone to celebrate them with, you let me know. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be your number one fan cheering you on because, girl, you are worth celebrating. We're going to celebrate those wins and at the same time, without judgment, look at our year from that bird's eye perspective and invite ourselves to grow. Where might we have rhythms that aren't working for us and rhythms we need to reset? This is going to set the stage as we move into 2025. Lastly, I want to invite you guys to do this. As you move into 2025 and you're thinking about the next level of health for you, whatever that is, like it's always going to be different depending on what season of life we're in. Instead of looking at the people around you who are maybe where you want to be and feeling intimidated or scared or inadequate next to them, I want to invite you to get yourself in spaces with people who think the way you want to think. This was something that was new to me this year as I stepped away from, it was really actually more in the workspace, but as I stepped away from my job, I went on a few retreats. I went into some new mastermind groups and I got around people who think about business the way I want to think about it. And I have to tell you, at first it was really intimidating. I would get in these groups and I honestly, the first one, I left it and I cried. I felt so inadequate being around these people that were massive business owners or had, 150 people that worked under them. They asked me questions like, do you want to own 1 or 5 clinics? Things that like my brain had just not gotten to yet. And so the first time I did this, I will be honest with you guys, it was really hard, but I decided, had a little like prayer time with God and decided I wasn't going to let that stop me. I wasn't going to let fear drive the bus here. And I kept showing up, and it was amazing what happened next. And as I went through that, I couldn't help but reflect and remember that that's actually the same thing I felt when I started doing CrossFit or I became a dietitian. Like anytime I have decided or tried to level up, whether it's my health, my business, my family, like whatever it is. When I was around people that were ahead of me, I had a really hard time not comparing myself to them. And so as you are looking at the next year, this is something I really want to invite you to grow with me on and challenge ourselves together, is that let's find people who are at that next level of health. Maybe it is going to the gym with someone who's in better shape than you. And it can feel really intimidating. But instead of getting down on yourself and getting stuck in that comparison, what can we learn from them? What can we take away, and how can we invite who they are into our own lives and grow? Because here's the thing. When we want to level up, we can't be afraid of what is at that next level. And I think so often we women feel this constant need to have this projection that we've got it all together. We don't feel a lot of feelings about our body, or we are where we want to be in our health. I don't know why. We just feel this inability to be vulnerable with each other. And I think that stops us from really growing. I think it creates a cycle of self-sabotage. And that's what I was reminded of this year as I was trying to grow in my business and being around these people that were so far ahead of me. I initially got caught up in that comparison, and it didn't serve me. And it so reminded me of the health journey. I think it was probably the very first podcast I recorded. I talked about my first experience at CrossFit and how I was so intimidated. And, now I just go in, I just screw around and swing from bars and have a great time. But there was a season when walking in that space was incredibly overwhelming to me. So wherever you're at and whatever level you're wanting to up yourself to in 2025, whether it's recovery with food, whether it's taking your fitness to another level, like whatever it is, I really want to invite you to step out of comparison and get next to people, get yourself in spaces with people, get in conversations with people who maybe are ahead of you. And instead of jumping into that comparison or judgment game, let's see what we can learn. I guarantee that is going to change everything. It's going to open your mind to new possibilities, new ways of thinking. It's going to definitely challenge old stories you have told yourself about who you are and your capabilities. But man, if you really want to level it up, that is going to be your ticket to that next level, is seeing what's actually possible and getting yourself in spaces with people who are doing it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for 2025, for you, for what it's going to hold. Can we just take a brief minute to, one, say thank you. Thank you guys for being here this year. It's been a different year for the Fuel Her Awesome show. We shifted to having episodes every other week instead of weekly. And I'm excited to let you know that's actually going to change. Coming in 2025, we're going to go back to weekly. So excited to be here. We'll have a little bit more of a consistent rhythm. You'll know what's coming, whether it's interview or the topic of the month. I'm going to lay that out for you at the beginning of the year so you know what to expect. And I'm so excited about this, guys. We are rolling out that next level program. It is going to kick off in 2025. I'm going to have all the details for you on the show. And in the meantime, this is what I can tell you. If you want to be in the know, I have a link in the show notes that can get you guys on the wait list. It's no commitment. It's just like, yes, Jess, I'm interested. I want to know the details. But I can tell you this. It's going to take everything to the next level. Customization, accountability, live interactions, biofeedback in terms of lab work, and these hair mineral tissue analysis tests and food sensitivity tests. We are going to look at the really big picture, because here's one thing I know. You and your eating journey are so individualized, and we really need to get granular with where your body's at now. And so we're going to do that. We have a new system that's going to allow us to do that. I'm so excited. And at the same time, we're going to build in that community element and that ability to interact with the people around you. So that's all I'm going to share right now. If you want more details on that, again, you can jump on that wait list in the link on the show notes below. Guys, it's been an amazing year. I will be signing off for the year. I want you guys to enjoy your holiday season, enjoy Christmas, enjoy New Year's. I will be back in 2025 for more empowering health and happier living. Guys, thank you for being here. I hope you have a blessed holiday season. Cheers and happy eating. I'm so glad you were here today. Let's do yourself a favor and write down at least one actionable item that you can take away from today's episode to start fueling your awesome. Here on the show, we scratch the surface of empowered eating, but if you're looking to dive in deeper, I would love to help you out with that. Head over to jessbrownrd.com. You can check out my free Empowered Eating workshop. You can take a free quiz to see if your eating style aligns with your values, or better yet, book a discovery call with me to learn more about how to further your empowered eating journey. I cannot wait to be in your ear again, cheering you on along the way. Until then, cheers and happy eating.